Guys, this was a pretty interesting install for two reasons. One, it was super cold when I did this installation, and two, I tried to work in some bed stiffeners. So I'm going to be releasing a video about the bed stiffeners that I installed at a later time, but one thing that made it really interesting was trying to install the two mods together. By themselves, it's really not that hard of an install, but together, I definitely have to troubleshoot a little bit. So if you're interested in that, stay tuned. Other than that, let's get into it. Okay, first things first. What you want to do is you want to remove your soft top if this applies to you. I have a video on how to remove this. It's pretty easy. It's just one screw really and some heavy lifting. I'll leave the video in the comments below or description below and the cards above. But one thing I want to talk about before we get into this installation is it's not that hard. You just need to prep. So I'm going to talk about the directions on how to prep in just a moment, but it's really all about the preparation. If you do that and you're patient, you'll be fine. Okay, what do I mean by preparation? I wish I had the unboxing for you guys, but it got deleted, something with corrupt files, very sad. But one thing I can do for you is give you guys a picture, right? So in this picture, the Bedrug is already set up. What you want to do is you want to zip up the Bedrug, which goes really well if you just kind of like pinch the sides and zip it up. Zip it all the way around and let it sit. Let it sit for at least overnight so that it can have a chance to kind of deflate. I've heard of people doing installs right out of the box and it's very rigid and very hard to work with. When I touched it out of the box, it was pretty rigid, so just leave it overnight. It makes a big difference, makes things super easy. So yeah, please do not skip this step. It's very important. One thing that's cool about this Bedrug is that on the older models, there was a secret compartment here. So on the back, they have a little cutout for the secret compartment, which was one thing that I was really worried about. And the same over here, instead of it being pre-cut like it shows online, it has the outline for you to cut. So that's a really good plus in case some of you guys were worrying whether or not it could fit the housing or not. But yeah. Okay, so after you let the Bedrug sit out for the night, one thing you want to do is you want to pay attention to this picture. Why? Because I didn't. And I had a little bit, it wasn't hard, but it just took a lot longer. And the whole point of doing this video is to just be helpful to you guys and to help you guys install these things quickly. So after installing the Bedrug, I think it was way easier to install the strips first than it is to install the strips step by step. So what I mean by that is when I installed this, I did it side by side. And after thinking about it, I think it's so much easier to just have all the strips there and then start ripping them out and sticking them on. So pay attention to these directions, pause the video here, get your strips out. Be sure to pay attention to the strips right where the tailgate meets, because if you have Chaos bed stiffeners, you do not need strips here. But some of the things that you do want to pay attention to is the strips on the left, the strips on the right, and the strips on top. These strips are super important. You could do the bottom ones after you do this, but basically if they're not perfectly in place, it's okay because they're Velcro and you haven't released the adhesive yet, so it's not that big of a deal. So yeah, pause this video, install the strips, and then we will get into the bed. All right, first thing you're gonna need is a T30 ratchet. Next, you're gonna need a 5/32 drill bit, or just a small drill bit, and a drill driver. You're also gonna need a knife, some scissors, and you're gonna need some microfiber towels and a quick detailer, or you could just use soap and water really. It's just to clean the truck of the bed. You're also gonna need some alcohol, but I don't have any, so I'm gonna use a PNG. And last but not least, All you really need is a hair dryer, a blow dryer, whatever it's called. Some people use a heat gun. I've never used a heat gun before, and I'm kind of just scared of the high temperatures, but it's been like over a month since I had the Bedrug, and I just used a hair dryer to install it in like 40-degree weather, so hair dryer works. And if you want to really warm up your bed, I don't have this with me right now, but you could use a space heater. So yeah, that's all the tools. Cool. Now that you have your tools, you want to take the T30 wrench and you want to remove the electrical housing on the right side of the Tacoma, closest to the tailgate, and way towards the back on the right and on the left are two almost galvanized tie-down points that you want to remove. Make sure to save all your bolts and all your screws and all your hardware in a safe box so that you don't lose them. Okay, so now that you cleaned your car, it's time to do some cutting. So what you want to do is you want to grab your knife and you want to grab your scissors. If you don't have a knife, scissors will work fine. You just got to kind of like finagle around a little bit. But this square that I'm picturing right now is the right side near the electrical housing of the Bedrug. If you are 2020 and below, so I think 2016 to 2019, you have to cut out both the left side for the sequin compartment and the right side for the housing, but 2020 and above, you just have the right side. So Bedrug did us a solid by not pre-cutting these out. That way they could probably save some money with the templates that they have. But what you want to do is you want to stab the inner portion of this rectangle pictured here, and then once you got the stab wound in, you want to put your scissors in there and cut around so you get a nice perfect rectangle. My advice to you would be to start with the most inner line so you have the smallest rectangle, and try that with your electrical housing later, and then if it's too small, just cut out a bigger rectangle. So that way if you mess up, you have some room to work with. So yep, just cut it out and you should be good. Okay, so this step's pretty simple and it's also optional. All you have to do is either use the space heater or the hair dryer to warm up the bed. I let the space heater chill there for, about 10 minutes, 20 minutes. I did like a 5-minute rotation, and then I was at the same time while the space heater was warming up the side, I used the blow dryer to blow up the adhesive strips or just kind of warm the rug in general. If you're pulling your rug out of your house and your house was room temperature, all the adhesive strips should be okay and perfectly warm. So if you do this quickly, you don't really have to heat too much up other than the bed. So yeah, work it out whatever way you want, but most important thing is that the strip and the point of contact is warm, and that way you can get the best stick possible. Okay, so some of you guys are working in the garage and some of you guys are working outside just like me. So if you're working outside, you probably left your Bedrug inside, and if you're working in the garage, you probably had it the whole time. So if you haven't already, take out your Bedrug. It's really not that heavy. You could probably lift it with one hand. If not, use two hands, it's no big deal. But yep, I'll see you in the next step. Okay, so this next portion is gonna run pretty quick. I'm gonna show you a diagram and then I'm gonna do like a little video model thing going on. So in the diagram, what you wanna keep in mind is that the first portion you're gonna start off with is the bottom of the Bedrug. Those two strips at the very bottom is the first thing that you're gonna start with, and then you're gonna move towards the front, and then you could choose between the left or the right, and then you work your way towards the back or the tailgate. So with that being said, let's get into it. One thing to keep in mind when we are installing, you always want to clean. If it's cold, then you have to heat, and then you rip off the protective film, and then you apply. So clean, heat, rip, apply. If you follow that, everything should be good. So I'm gonna start out with the first portion, which is the bottom part of the bed, and yeah, let's get into it. So the main point of this step is that you want to reinstall the electrical housing. How are you going to do this? Kind of simple, kind of not simple. So first step is that you want to shimmy in the electrical housing through the bed rug so that the bed rug's literally behind it. And then the next step is a little tricky. You're going to have to use your drill bit. There are some pre-cut or pre-marked drill holes on the back of the bed rug, but just looking at the holes, they didn't particularly match with this particular electrical housing box. So my idea was to just kind of get the first drill bit hole in place and basically drill it through. I'm not saying to drill through your truck because that's insane and you definitely don't want to do that, but just make sure it lines up and drill a hole before you have it on the bed so that your drill bit's kind of like sticking past the bed rug so that you can line up that with the drill bit hole. So once you know that the holes are in place, then you could just kind of like pop your screw in, and then from there you could just kind of like use your T30 wrench and get it on the tracks. Please be careful when you do this. If you don't feel comfortable using a drill bit, definitely just, do the pre-cut holes. There's nothing wrong with that. Okay, so now that you finished doing the electrical housing, now it's time to take that same method and apply that to the remaining hardware, which is the tie-down points. So you're going to want to find those from the box you saved them earlier, and then you're going to want to start drilling some holes into the bed rug. So what you want to do is you want to kind of find where the bed rug lines up, and then you want to drill a hole at the top one first. You could do the bottom as well, but I was sketched to do the bottom because I was scared I would have overshot it and then all of a sudden have a bed rug sticking out. So I did the top hole, made sure it lined up and was flush with the top of the bed, and then drilled a hole, popped through the bolt, got the hardware set up, let it chill in the hole a little bit, and then that set me up perfectly for the bottom hole. If you're having trouble, of course, loosen the bolts a little bit, and then make sure to just kind of like leverage and just take a peek behind the bed rug and see where exactly your drill bit is lining up. Again, be careful when drilling. You definitely don't want to drill into your bed. Could if you want to, but then you might have a new tie down point. So yeah. So you made it to this part of the video. That means that you have completed probably 80% of your bedrug, which is awesome. So now all we have left to do is the tailgate. So the way I did this was a little bit non-traditional, but in my head at the time it made a lot of sense. So what I did was I basically unscrewed using the T30 torque wrench the screws. Basically I unscrewed the middle 6 screws and left the 2 outer screws of the tailgate. So what I did was I installed the bedrug over the tailgate. The bedrug's actually supposed to go under, but I did it over to just kind of have more leverage when reaching under the bedrug to remove the adhesive. So that's exactly what I did. So once I removed the adhesive, I basically applied some pressure and then I uninstalled the screws and then reinstalled the screws. But on the second time around, I uninstalled all 8 of the screws because the bedrug has to go underneath and you got to put some spacers. So basically the way it works according to the diagram is that the very bottom tailgate is the tailgate, then inside the holes you put a spacer, and then on top of the spacer goes the plastic part, and then on top of the plastic part is your screw. So it's tailgate, spacer, bedrug, screw. And the bedrug pretty much has a little hole, the perfect size for the spacer, so it fits nice and snug, except for the outer 2 screws. The outer 2 screws kind of elevated and left a little bit of a gap, which I wasn't a fan of because I didn't want dirt or water to get trapped beneath the lining of the bed and the actual, the actual truck. So I didn't want any rust, didn't want any dust. So what I did was I left the spacers out and I bent the plastic a little bit just so it was nice and snug and closed. So that part is completely up to you guys, but I would suggest doing it. Of course, I always say that I'm not like a professional. I'm definitely an amateur modder, but yeah, I just don't like that extra space. I don't like things creeping in there. So who knows, like maybe like some bugs will just start like mating in there and making a nest. So definitely want to close that hole up. So yeah, that's how you install the tailgate.
Perfect. Perfect. And there's put some glue right there. This part's a little trickier. So this is what it looked like previously. Like that. I thought this was a better solution than a super permanent solution. I ended up putting one of these. I warmed this up and I'm gonna put it right here. So I can do that real quick. And put that right on the corner right there. Push aggressively, just like the directions say. And I ended up just folding the bedrug into itself, like so. And then, there you go. So, it's not perfect, but it's better than cutting it and making a mistake and it looking really ugly. But, let's see, let me just fold it some more. But from the outer view, it just kind of looks like that, which is way better than having to cut it. So you can just fold it, make sure to utilize the sticky strip, and that's what they're there for. There's so many of them, so yeah, that worked way better. Okay, so that was pretty much the installation of the bed rug, and also probably the bed stiffeners if you haven't seen that video already, or if it hasn't even came out yet. I'm not sure which one's going to come out first, but both modifications are pretty easy to install by themselves, but together it was a little bit more difficult, and that's because the bed rug is so thick. It's like, I don't even know if I have a piece, but it's like this thick, and this thickness makes it so hard to get the bed stiffeners in place. And this was the thin part too. This was the part for the power outlet, but it was really difficult to get those in. Like, even if I bolted down the bottom first, the very top tip was just really out of place, and I ended up stripping a bolt earlier just from doing that. So if you ever strip a bolt, or the bolt, like, kind of like this, what are they called? The threads are misaligned. I'm going to be posting a video about how to fix that in the future, so keep a lookout for that one. But yeah, it was just, I mean, I'm pretty sure there's some other ways to do it, by getting like longer bolts, or maybe even drilling another hole into the Chaos bed stiffener, but this is the best I could do right now, and honestly I think it looks pretty nice, and I think my dogs will be very comfortable back here. So yeah, pretty interesting video. I think together this is the most difficult modification I've done so far, but it's really not too bad. It's just the fact that they were done together. But yeah, comment down below, let me know what you think. I'm trying to make these videos, I'm trying to incorporate the GoPro into these videos just so you could see like what I'm seeing. Because of course, whenever you're doing something, it doesn't always go as planned. No matter how much research and how much you prepare, some things just happen. So yeah, comment down below, let me know what you think. Let me know if you guys are into these issues. For those of you guys rocking bed rugs, I don't really see too many people rock the bed rugs unless they're doing kind of like truck bed camping. So yeah, let me know if there's an easier way, but for now I'm gonna leave it like this. And yeah, I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.